What is a dead giveaway of a toxic relationship? My 57-year-old colleague constantly has to send videos and pics of him working to his wife. One partner always gets their way. For me, it was easier to bend over backward than to deal with the whining and complaining if I stood my ground. Easier is in quotes because it was only easier in the short term, long term made life hell. If someone is always talking crap about their partner whenever they are not together. I've seen this far too many times, it's always ended in total disaster within a few years at most. Lack of trust and constant fights. Inability to take a step back, listen and analyze the other person's point and actually come to a conclusion during a conflict. No communication and everything is a blame game with no acceptance of responsibility. When they say we need to work on our communication, but every time you bring anything up they get mad and start an argument. Break up, make up, break up, make up, rinse, and repeat. Someone who does not let you have a life outside of the relationship and gets upset when you see friends or do hobbies you like, even if you make time for them. Being yelled at / attacked for reacting to their abusive behavior. When the efforts toward the relationship are highly imbalanced, one doing the receiving, the other doing all the giving. Driving home from work you take a detour so the drive lasts longer. Edit. I see a lot of comments about this kind of relationship with an ex. I'm glad some of you are out. For the rest of you in this cycle, don't know what to tell you, but major hugs. If you find yourself feeling alone in the relationship. Lack of autonomy. Things like having to vet every little thing you do with a partner, being isolated from outside relationships and not self-actualizing outside of the context of part of a couple. There is usually a power imbalance or at the very least an unhealthy level of codependency. We had a friend who would not speak until after her boyfriend spoke. One night she was over for dinner without him and mentioned how her boyfriend was passionate and sometimes put his fist through their walls. After that comment she came to help me do dishes and I was like, that's not normal. You okay? Last time I punched a wall I was a 14-year-old boy. She eventually left him, but the fact that she always demurred to him, to me, is a red flag. What's a realistic way to reduce gun violence in America? Give kids a world worth living in. Everything they know is a neck-and-neck race to some kind of apocalypse. They see their parents struggling. They don't have any hope for the future. Every day the country becomes a worse place to live. Is it any wonder people are breaking into a million pieces? Some people are under so much pressure that when they break, they shatter into jagged pieces that fly everywhere. Others crumple. Nobody breaks the same. We shouldn't be asking why people are breaking this way rather than that way. We should stop breaking people altogether. Define realistic. Realistic as in would work if implemented, or realistic as in Americans would be willing to implement. Although I do think we absolutely need better gun control, America has a deeper problem not only with its youth population, but with our overall social structure and way of living. This has not happened overnight, it's been building up for the past 40+ years. Actually giving a shit about men's mental health and upbringing. Men make up 80% of homicide victims and 90% of homicide perpetrators. I don't know the stat, but considering many homicides are by gun, then that would mean men most likely also commit the most gun violence. Unfortunately, people turn the focus to reactive measures rather than proactive. Just by stopping children in underprivileged neighborhoods from joining gangs or partaking in some form of criminal activity like selling drugs would reduce a large percent of homicides and gun deaths. But yet you don't see any big government involvement in trying to help these kids. Sad that we have this data to suggest these measures would have an impact, yet the best we have came up with is trying to ban guns, which sure, but that isn't gonna work for years, maybe decades. We need to act now. Edit for those who say what about other countries that? No, this won't stop it all. It would reduce it though, as the question asked. Teach your kids not to be nasty little fuckers / bullies, let your kids know they can talk to you at any time about anything, give them examples. Hey, do you feel stressed out, depressed, bullied, suicidal? Don't be scared to use adult words. Teach the importance of being a good person, that every action has a consequence. Edit. I have tried to reply to all comments, it's getting late here now. Be the change you wish to see in the world. First, we have to be honest with ourselves about where the most gun violence is occurring. And sadly, we refuse to do that. Spike Lee on Reddit. Reddit only likes talking about 1 to 5% of the gun violence, generally, ignoring the other 99 to 95% of it. Source: I live in Detroit. The national news never talks about all the children that are killed on our streets weekly. You don't know their names, and you never will. But they're dead kids nonetheless. I guess they were just murdered in the wrong location, so no one cares. We lost more kids this year in one city, than you have in school shootings nationally. But you people don't really care, you just pretend to. The second inner-city gun violence gets brought up about Chicago or Detroit, you want to change the subject. Removed. Unpopular opinion. I grew up shooting competitively and hunting. I was around guns from a very young age, took hunter's safety at 8 and started competing at 9. Competed until I was 18. I was also horrifically bullied. Tormented mentally, physically, emotionally for years and years. Never once did the thought to use a gun on the people who bullied me come to my mind. It's an aggression and impulse control issue, and it will continue to get worse if politicians refuse to allow social and emotional learning to take place. Edit to add, if anyone is upvoting this because they think I am super pro-gun and anti-anything else, please read my comments. I agree that access to guns is part of the problem. I agree with stricter gun laws. I don't agree with fear-mongering, black and white thinking, and willful ignorance. I am only trying to point out my experiences. Non-gang related mass shootings are rare. For this year compared to the 150 or whatever number is getting thrown around a lot. The best way to reduce gun deaths is to improve our social safety net and help underserved communities. And when around 40% or more of the gun deaths depending on the age group you look at are suicide, yet are still lumped in with overall gun violence, that's a bit ridiculous. Law-abiding gun owners aren't the ones committing these shootings. In fact, in MN, CCW holders are less likely to commit crime than police officers. With the rarity of mass shootings outside of ones that are gang-related, and the amount of suicides that make up a large chunk of gun deaths, currently proposed gun control measures are not going to help. Addressing the poor socio-economic status of Americans that leads them to gangs and a life of crime will do more than making it harder for people who aren't doing crime to buy a firearm. The issue is neither party is doing much about improving our social safety net. One party wants to ban guns, the other wants to ban drag. We are getting nowhere and we are becoming increasingly divided and nothing of value gets done, and not just with gun violence. The leading cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt, and as long as underserved communities aren't invested in, and we have no social safety net to fall back on, and with how insanely divided we are politically to where we literally hate each other over stupid opinions, Americans will keep killing each other. Edit, I appreciate all of the responses to my comment. But I'm at work and trying to respond on breaks. I will likely not be able to respond to everyone. What movie had you saying what the fuck the most while watching? The most audible what the fuck I have ever heard from an entire movie theater audience was actually from Pixar. It was their short film Bao, I think before Incredibles 2. A woman makes a little baby out of dumpling ingredients, there is a cute montage of them together, and then she eats it without warning. It was a midnight opening so the audience was all adults, and yeah, nobody saw that coming. Swiss Army Man. Sorry to bother you. Tusk. The Lighthouse. Mother. Human Centipede. The Lobster. Being John Malkovich is just one weird thing happening after the other, giving you very little time to process it. Recently watched Paprika, and I have to go with that. Edit, several people have pointed out the trailer is terrible. I'll admit I only watched a few seconds on mute before linking it just to check it was the correct movie. It is indeed a terrible trailer which doesn't do justice to the film, don't let it put you off. Deleted. Mulholland Drive. Really all David Lynch stuff though should probably be in this thread. The Barbarian and Requiem for a Dream. Velocipaster, an instant classic. Sausage Party Edit. First I didn't expect this many upvotes lol and second just wanted to say I didn't mean WTF in a bad way, I thought the movie was funny, it's just that damn ending literally made me say WTF out loud, and judging by the comments safe to say I'm not the only one.